All right, okay, so good morning everyone. My name's Emma Tarrant-Tayu and I work for the University of Nottingham, and it's my pleasure to speak to you this morning as part of the Newbie Education virtual exhibitions happening this October. So I'm going to start today's session with a presentation just to tell you more about the University of Nottingham, why I think you should choose to study with us, a little bit about our history, and then also the city of Nottingham, where we're located. So do put any questions that you have in the chat. When I get to the end of the presentation, I'll go back through those. If there's anything that I haven't covered as part of the presentation, then we'll be able to go through those. And then if you have more individual questions that perhaps you don't want to ask in a public forum, there'll also be a way to follow up so that you can ask your kind of questions that are particular to your own personal circumstance. So at Nottingham, we believe that normal never changed the world. There's a video on our YouTube that kind of goes into more detail in this. And essentially, we see ourselves as a university that is existing to make a difference. We want to challenge norms. We want to conduct research that is going to change the world for the better. So we're a UK university, and if you're considering different destinations, just to kind of really touch on why the UK, so British universities combine centuries of academic tradition and excellence, and that gives a really great student experience for you when you're coming to study. The UK government has very strict quality checks, and there's an office for students that is managed by the government, which looks at the conditions for students, as well as carrying out separate assessments of the research that is conducted by universities. And British degrees are recognised by universities and employers around the world. And if you're looking at doing a course perhaps in engineering, you can also look at the accreditation bodies. So a course that is accredited in the UK has lots of agreements with other accreditation bodies around the world. So an engineering student that has done a UK degree that is accredited by, let's say, the Institute of Chemical Engineers would find that actually that same accreditation can be used in many, many other countries all around the world. So that's something to that's just something to also consider in terms of the UK. Now, why Nottingham more specifically? So I'll just go through a bit more about the university and perhaps touch on a few things that you might want to think about as you're choosing a university. So I've already mentioned research a couple of times in my presentation this morning, and that's because it's a really central part of the University of Nottingham's kind of activity and ethos. So we're a member of the prestigious Russell Group, and the Russell Group, it's the UK equivalent of the US Ivy League, if you like, and it's 24 universities that have really set themselves a challenge to make sure that we're conducting research that isn't just competitive within the UK, but that is competitive internationally, that we're attracting the best academics that are driven to conduct research and also the best students, so that you can really know that you're in the best place. So that investment and that work that we do is reflected in some of the rankings. So when you look at the QS World University Rankings, we're in the top 20 universities in the UK, and the QS rankings also have a graduate employability aspect, and we're in the world top 70 for that. So that's looking at employer impressions and thoughts about different university degrees from around the world. So that's a position that we're very happy to be in, and that's partly because not only is Nottingham somewhere that places a lot of emphasis on academics, but we also place a lot of emphasis on careers development and extracurricular activities. So you'll see another mention to the research power on the slide there, but then the final one is about us being Sports University of the Year. And we've held top top 2, top 3, top 4 kind of positions in the UK inter-university competitions, and it's just part of the fact that so many students get involved outside of their studies in different societies. So I'll come to that in a short while when I talk about student life. So as a university, we've got a global student community. We have the UK campus, and you would have seen in our logo, there's also the campuses in China and in Malaysia. So across the 3 campuses, we're getting to close to 50,000 students. The UK campus has around 34,000, and 25,000 approximately of those would be undergraduate students, and around 10,000 would be postgraduate students. So when you're a student at Nottingham, if you come to Nottingham, you're going to meet also the rest of the world on campus, as we attract students from more than 150 different countries around the world. So with the international campuses, there are also opportunities for exchange between the UK campus and those campuses. And then we also have mobility agreements with lots of other universities around the world. So if you're thinking about an undergraduate degree and you might like to spend a semester or a year abroad, you'll have the opportunity to take part in a study abroad fair. That's an internal activity, and then depending on your course, you would have a list of universities to choose from. So obviously the last couple of years, students have been restricted due to travel restrictions. We've had some students that have done kind of virtual mobility, but we're really looking forward to kind of relaunching and seeing students traveling around the world in exchange activity as well. So the university itself, in terms of our history, started as a college of the University of London in 1877, and over the years it has developed and moved into the campus that we're in now. We've added different schools and departments. So our School of Medicine is celebrating 50 years this year. The School of Nursing is celebrating 30 years this year, and in that time we've won a Nobel Prize from one of the professors in the School of Medicine. And then the campuses in Malaysia and China opened in 2000 and 2006. So we're really a university that is ambitious, and you'll see that reflected in the different courses that we offer. So the different faculties that you'll find at Nottingham are arts, engineering, medicine and health sciences, science, and the social sciences. And so I'm not going to go through every single subject area, because what I will want each person to do is to actually visit the prospectus and really look at the kind of courses that we offer, work out whether you have the right entry criteria, work out whether the course meets the objectives that you're looking for. So within engineering, for example, you will find the major engineering disciplines: architectural engineering, civil, chemical, mechanical, electrical, materials, manufacturing. There are all of those different disciplines, aerospace as well, that can be found. Within medicine and health sciences, we also offer midwifery, nursing, physiotherapy, as well as the standard kind of medical degree. And then we've offered a few other kind of courses that might be of interest to people that are interested in the medical field. Courses that look at oncology, for example. There's a BSc Cancer Sciences and an MSc Oncology, as well as specialisms in public health and public health promotion. In the sciences, you have everything going from biotechnology through to pharmacy, through to maths and statistics. And then in the social sciences, there's the School of Law, Business School, Sociology, Education, Economics, and these are all departments that are very strong. So I don't want to go through all of the courses one by one, but just to kind of give you an idea of the fact that the university is a comprehensive university. We offer a wide range of different academic disciplines, and you will find strengths across the university as well. So in terms of the entry criteria. If you're a student that is waiting for their WIEC results, if you join the University of Nottingham, we offer a one-year foundation program, and that's in partnership with Kaplan, and Newbie Education would be able to assist you with the application process. And so the foundation courses available are in business, law and social sciences, engineering and physical sciences, and then also in science. So from those three options, you are able to access the majority of the undergraduate courses, with the exception of medicine. So if anyone is particularly interested in medicine, I'd advise that we book separate time to kind of discuss the options in that particular area. If you're taking your A-levels or you're doing a foundation program somewhere else, then we'd be looking at the kind of typical offers that would range in A's and B's. So if you're taking those particular courses and you're looking at next September entry, then the application process is open through UCAS. And again, Newbie can assist you with the application. Now, if you're interested in postgraduate courses, it will depend on what is written on the prospectus online as to the entry criteria. So some courses will specify that you need a background in the exact same area. So if you want to do an MSc in accounting, your first degree should have been in accounting. But there are other courses where it could have been in any other subject. So an MSc, let's say in entrepreneurship, innovation and management, your first degree could have been in any other subject. So that's the first step, is to check whether your first degree will allow you to apply for the course that you've identified. And then looking at the GPA that you have. So if you see 2.1, that means that you need an upper second class degree, a second class upper. And then if you see a 2.2, for students coming from Nigeria, we have a cutoff where you would need a GPA of 3.0 or above. So if I take a course such as MSc in physiotherapy, that would take a 2.2. So you would need a first degree in physiotherapy, and you would need to have had a GPA of at least 3.0 over 5. So if you have any questions around eligibility, again, you can check with myself or with the team at Newbie. And I've put the URL on the website, and I'll share it again at the end, where you can go through and find this information again. If you're interested in postgraduate research courses, so that is PhD programs, most departments will ask you to have done a master's program. I do sometimes get asked, you know, is it possible to go from BSc direct to PhD? Some departments, it's technically possible, but in practice, it's very rare. And the reason is that when you come to do a PhD program, you need to be ready to hit the ground running and conduct research. So the purpose of the masters is to have also prepared you develop some kind of research skills and really have a good idea of what kind of research you want to do. So you do need to have a detailed research proposal when you apply, and you should have gone through the website to identify a possible supervisor before you apply. I was speaking to a student recently who is very interested in human rights law, but she's very focused on gender and women's rights. And when she went through the website, she couldn't find anybody that was very specific on women's rights. She could find lots of expertise around human rights, perhaps indigenous rights, but she couldn't find anybody that was very specific to women's rights. And so I kind of said, well, unfortunately, that will mean that if you were to do your PhD with us, you might not get the level of supervision and the level of insight that is also going to be best for your success. So don't assume, you know, that we'll just match you with somebody that is close to your topic. There really has to be a very close alignment between the topic that you want to research and the supervisor that you would work with during your PhD program. So That's in terms of the entry criteria. Very quickly, if you are coming for a foundation program, you'll need to do a UKVI English language test. The two that are accepted now are the IELTS and PTE. If you're coming for an undergraduate program direct into bachelor's, then if you've done an IGCSE or your WIEC, then we can advise on whether that would be accepted. And then if you're coming for a postgraduate program, we will use your degree results as proof of English language, and that is also mentioned on our website as well. Very quickly to touch on funding. Again, as a university, we have a very wide portfolio of funding options. You need to also go through and check your eligibility for the different options that are there. I'm very quickly at the end going to show you the URL that I'll share, and you'll see the list of scholarships that is on there. Aside from the academic scholarships, which are very merit-based, looking at having applied, we do also have some support for elite athletes as well. So this is if you are competing perhaps at the national level, or you're aiming to compete at the national level, and that's something that's quite exciting. We had Nottingham students participating at the most recent Olympics, for example. And then there are also different schools and departments that have scholarships. So the business school has a scholarship program for the master's courses. If you're a first class student or you have a GPA that is above 4.0 over 5, the business school is offering scholarships that are based on your GPA, but you would need to apply very soon to make sure that you're considered for those. So that's in terms of kind of the academics, the courses that we have, how to apply, your funding. I'm now just going to talk very quickly through some of the things to expect once you would arrive at Nottingham. So we've got a very active careers department, and they are so busy throughout the year. If you're on LinkedIn, you can look up kind of University of Nottingham careers and click follow if you want to just get an idea of the kinds of activities that they're doing to organise fairs on campus that are thematic. So there might be a law fair, there might be an engineering fair, organising placements with local businesses. So whether that's part of just kind of your extracurricular, you want to spend 1 day a week working with a business supporting in a particular function, or whether your degree has a year in industry, which is possible for undergraduate courses, there's a lot of support that's going on. So do make the most of the career support. If you want to work part-time as well, the career service will support you to perhaps think about how to be strategic around your part-time work as well, so that you can develop skills that you're going to also add to your CV, as well as earning a little extra cash, alongside your studies. That is something that is allowed on the student visa. And then after you graduate, the UK government now offers you the opportunity to work for 2 years with the graduate visa if you're doing a bachelor's or a master's program, or 3 years if you're doing a PhD program. And so the careers department will also kind of support you whilst you're looking for graduate jobs. But also 5 years, 10 years after you've graduated, you can still come back to the career service and say, I'm thinking about making a move. I want to update my CV. Can you give me some tips? So it is something that is quite interesting as well, as a really great resource. Then just a few kind of images from our campus. This is our University Park campus. This is a really lovely aerial view that you can see here. If you go onto our YouTube, you can watch kind of full tours where it'll go through, you know, show you what accommodation is like, show you what the sports facilities are like, you know, the students' union. It's a very spacious and very green campus. And then just within walking distance of this, I don't know if you can see my pointer, in the top right, you can see there's a red building up here. That's a newer campus that opened in 2002, which is the Jubilee campus. And this is also where you find the business school, computer science. And again, we've tried to maintain the lake and the kind of green setting. If you're interested in anything to do with agriculture or kind of biosciences, then you'd be at the Sutton Bonington campus. So this is a little out of the city, and there are free student buses that connect you from the main campus to the Sutton Bonington campus. And so here there's a working farm, there's a farmers market that happens every couple of weeks, there's student accommodation on site. So really across all of the campuses, you've got lots of facilities. We sometimes joke that actually you don't need to go off campus for anything because everything is there. But then when you do want to go off campus, you've got really good public transport links as well into the city centre. And that then just kind of takes me into just to kind of mention that for accommodation, we have a guarantee for international students that we, you know, will help you get a room in university accommodation, but you do need to make sure that you apply by the specified deadline. And there are different types of rooms. For undergraduates, you can choose catered or self-catered, and then for postgraduate students, it's generally self-catered only. And then there's lots of student societies, lots of things to get involved in. You can be an engineering student, but then, I don't know, have a radio show on the student radio and, you know, be talking about music. You can volunteer off campus, get involved in sports. Really kind of the options are endless, and I just kind of say to everybody, when you come to Nottingham, yes, keep your eye on your academics. You need to have good results in the first place to get to Nottingham, but don't let your Nottingham experience just be about the academics. Really make the most of all the different opportunities that there are available. And then if you do step off of campus, you're in the city of Nottingham. So on the map, you can see that we're centrally located in England, and it's easy to kind of travel outside of Nottingham if you want to go to London for the day, you want to go to Birmingham for the day, it's doable. But sometimes you don't even need to do that. So within Nottingham itself, there are so many different things that you can get involved in. There are different kind of festive markets, there are music events, art exhibitions. There's the legend of Robin Hood and the Castle of Nottingham that you can visit. So it's not at all a kind of boring city to be based in. And if you think you're going to have guests, you'll definitely have places to show them in Nottingham. So that's just kind of a quick run through. I didn't want to speak to you for more than kind of 30 minutes initially. So just to kind of summarize in terms of work with the counsellors at Newbie Education, contact me if there's anything that isn't so clear from the online prospectus, and then book an appointment to kind of work through submitting your application. If your course is eligible for funding, you know, then obviously do apply for that if there is a separate application process, and then get ready to arrive. So we look forward to having you as part of the University of Nottingham student community. And then I just promised that this link that is at the bottom here, I just want to show you what that looks like when you open it, and just kind of show you that actually on the website there is a huge amount of information that you can you can use to research and to prepare. So when you click on that link, this is the page that will open up, and you'll see that this has specific information for students coming from Nigeria. There's information about the entry criteria for different levels, and then there's the list of different scholarships that Nigerian students could be eligible to apply for. So from the undergraduate excellence awards, the postgraduate excellence award, the developing solutions master scholarship, which is an internal scholarship, and then there are also the external scholarships that are managed by the UK government, such as Chevening and Commonwealth, and then there's also the Sporting Excellence Awards. And then, of course, we do also partner with some of the Nigerian sponsors. So PTDF sponsors students to study at Nottingham, as do TEP Fund as well. And there are other external funding bodies that you might approach who will also fund your studies at Nottingham. So this is a really useful page to just kind of save and bookmark. So if you've not made any notes so far, just write down this one URL as something to come back and visit after today. So yeah, so be part of our world. We look forward to welcoming you to Nottingham. So I can see that there are some comments that have been coming into the chat. Do you want to just kind of see if we go through those one by one, if there are more questions? How do you want to manage the rest of the session?
Okay, please, if you have your questions, leave them in the chat box. There are 2 questions already. Read them out, and then I can answer the people that asked the question. The first person said, this is Neil, please, for someone intending to apply for graduate and are you there, Ma? You're muted.
Okay, so that was the question for someone intending to apply for graduate entry nursing MSc. What's the initial deposit to obtain the CAS, and what are the installments to be used to pay tuition? Okay, so that's a good question. So for the master's programs, the CAS deposit amount is £2,000. And then across all of our courses, we structure the installments in 3 stages. So some courses do also have an additional deposit if you're in the business school. So basically, what would happen is your tuition for the year is divided into 3. So you have your first installment in October, your second installment in January, and then your third installment would normally be at the end of April. So whatever deposit you've paid would be deducted from the October installment, and then you would need to meet up with the rest of your installments throughout the year. And then graduate entry nursing MSc is a 2-year program. So the fee on the website is the annual tuition fee. So you would have 3 installments in your first year, and then you would also have 3 installments in your second year.
Okay, thank you. The second question is from Emmanuel. Are there fully funded scholarship programs offered at Nottingham to Africans?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I don't know which level of study you're referring to, but I can talk through the different levels and the kind of funding that is available. So essentially for undergraduate courses, you won't find fully funded scholarship programs offered by the university, and there are very few external scholarships that would also fully cover your costs as an undergraduate student. As a master's student, The external scholarships that I mentioned, such as Chevening and Commonwealth, they cover all of your costs, your tuition and your stipend, your flights. For internal scholarships, the maximum that we offer as an internal scholarship is 100% tuition. So that would be through the Developing Solutions Scholarship that I mentioned. So the majority of awards on that are 50% awards, and there are a few that are 100% awards. And then it is also possible to combine that award with other awards. So if you are, let's say, a first-class student coming into the business school, if the business school gave you a 50% tuition award, and then you also applied for the Developing Solutions Award and also got 50%, you could combine those two together to get 100% tuition award, but you would then still need to manage your own living expenses. In terms of PhD programs, again, there are external funding bodies that will cover the full tuition and provide you with a stipend. So the Commonwealth is one for female PhD students in the sciences, technology courses. There's the Schlumberger Faculty for the Future, for example, that will cover kind of all costs involved. In terms of internal scholarships for PhD, it really varies on the department, and these are sometimes advertised as scholarships, and then sometimes they're advertised as studentships. And the difference between the two generally is with the scholarship, you have the power of choice of, you know, I really want to conduct my research on this topic, and then you put forward an argument as to why your topic, you know, should be funded and why you should be selected. With the studentships, generally there is funding for a particular topic. So there could be a pharmaceutical company that says, you know, we're going to fund 10 PhD positions looking at different approaches towards a particular treatment of a particular disease. So you would apply for it almost as if it was a job, you know, so you have to accept the research topic that has been predefined. And with those, there are some where it will cover your tuition fees and then you would be paid a stipend. And then there are some where perhaps the external company or funding body would fund the UK tuition fee amount and a stipend. So if you're coming in as an international student, the department might say, well, we can offer it to you. However, you would need to pay the difference between the home and the international fee. So for PhD programs, it can get quite complex, but I always tell people, look at all of the different options. You never know, there might be a door that's actually unlocked. All you need to do is just kind of push against it. So that was a long answer, but I hope that's hope to clarify a little bit. So if you do have other questions, specify, you know, if it's master's level or undergraduate level or PhD level kind of question that you want to get answers for.
All right, please leave your questions in the chat box, or if you would like to speak to us, just raise your hand and we'll unmute you so you can talk.
Okay. Okay, so whilst you're waiting and kind of thinking about the questions that you might have, I'll just talk a little bit about the documents that you need in order to apply, because I know that's quite a common question that we get. So if you are applying for a master's program, generally documents that we're going to need are your transcripts and your certificates from your bachelor's program. If your certificate isn't ready, then when you're applying, just make sure that you mention that in your personal statement that just says, you know, my certificate isn't yet available. You then need to to write a personal statement. So your personal statement is, let's say about 300 words. It doesn't need to be very, very long, but it does need to be detailed enough that the admissions knows that you've thought about why you want to pursue your studies in the subject that you've chosen and why at Nottingham. So that's where it comes back to having researched the online prospectus, look at the modules that are involved, you know, so you can mention, okay, well, I'm really interested in studying the Masters of Public Health at the University of Nottingham because I can see that there's a global health option. I can see that there are staff that have experience of looking at health promotion in a particular context, or there's a tobacco focused thing, and this is something that I've never looked at before. I think it might be an option, you know, to kind of really further my knowledge in a new area. So you want to kind of be specific enough in your personal statement that we know that you've been through the prospectus. Then for most of our courses, we will require 2 references, and the references are from academics, and then if you've been working, one of your references could be from a professional place of work. So thank you. I can see you've put the list into the chat box there as well. And then to also add your CV if you've got some work experience. And then for the proof of English language, depending on your study level, we might use your YX, might need to submit an IELTS, or it might be that we can use your degree certificate. So just make sure that you put in all of those documents, and then the ones that are needed, you know, would be used accordingly. Yeah. So does anyone have any specific questions about their course? Does anyone want to raise your hand, and you know, we can let you ask your question if you don't want to chat. Use the chat box.
Okay, there's a direct question from somebody, and the person says, what are the requirements for someone that wants to study BSc medicine?
Okay. Yeah, so
are they going to be given, is it going to be partly funded for BSc students?
Okay, so studying undergraduate medicine in the UK can be a little bit tricky as an international student, and the main reason is that the British government funds the majority of the medical schools at the universities through the National Health Service. And so UK universities have a limit on how many international students they can offer places to for medicine. So the limit is around 10%. So at Nottingham, out of 240 students every year that we would admit for medicine, we have a limit of 25 international students. So you can imagine, in terms of the number of applications that we get globally, to choose only 25 can be very competitive, and therefore the academic entry criteria is very specific and very high. So in order to apply, you need to have done the A-level curriculum for biology, for chemistry, or you need to have done the IB curriculum for biology and for chemistry. And there's very few kind of options aside from that. And then on top of that, because the medical schools are funded by the government and it's seen as a kind of a national priority, international students are charged, you know, in full for their right to kind of study within those medical schools. So you won't find very many, if any, kind of scholarships to study undergraduate medicine. So at Nottingham, we have that limit on the number of people that we can offer places to, and we don't offer any scholarships to undergraduate medical students. And I know of very few, I don't really know of anywhere else in the UK that, you know, has scholarships, for example, for undergraduate medicine. There are a couple of kind of private universities that are starting to offer medicine, but again, I don't know if they would offer scholarships or not. So for medicine, you need to be doing either the A-levels or IB, and then your academics need to be outstanding, and then you also need to have, you know, funds to cover the costs yourself. There's a question that's just come in from Sujibumi. I don't know if you're asking about the limit on numbers for the MSc. Essentially, the cap on how many students we can admit is specific to undergraduate medicine. So for other courses, there isn't that same strict limit. So if we look at MSc programs, some of our MSc programs, it's 50% international students, sometimes more than 50% international students. So that limit isn't the same. It's just very particular for undergraduate medicine.
Please leave your questions in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and ask yourself. Okay, there's a direct question. Can someone who has a first degree in life sciences course in Nigeria apply for undergraduate medicine at the university?
Yes, you can. So there is a 4-year graduate entry medicine, which is for people that have a first degree. There's the same limitation on the number of places that can be given to international students. So that's just something to bear in mind, is that you will be competing with lots of other international graduates for a very small number of places. So the prospectus will tell you that the minimum requirement, you know, is that you've graduated with your first degree and it should be a strong 2-2. But in practice, the selection onto those places is going to be very, very competitive. So so that's just one thing to bear in mind. And then again, in terms of the funding, you won't find scholarships for the graduate entry 4-year medicine program. If you're looking at the 1-year MPH or the 1-year MSc oncology, which as a life sciences graduate you can also apply to, you'll find the scholarships that I had mentioned earlier, but for the 4-year program, you won't find any funding attached.
Okay, there is a direct message. And again, what are your arrival plans for children who are 17 years old? Can I come with them as a parent to help with the admission process?
Okay, so for somebody who is 17 at the time that they will start their course, it would depend on whether you're coming into the foundation college or if you're coming in for the degree program. So in the foundation college, I know they have a pastoral care team that will offer specific support to students that are under the age of 18. For those that are coming into the degree program directly at the university, we will ask you as a parent to sign an authority form where you kind of say, you know, my child is independent and is mature, and so don't treat them any differently from any other student. So that's just kind of one thing to think about, is that, you know, it is an adult environment. Everybody else will be 18 or above. So you have to have that conversation with your child about whether they're ready for that. And then if you're not based in the UK, we will ask you to provide the details of a UK-based guardian that we can contact if there is any issue. In terms of traveling to the UK together, you can do that. We have students that are even older than 17, and their parents, you know, will travel with them if it's the first time that you're going to be in a new environment to, you know, check on accommodation, where you're going to do your shopping, and so on. But generally, it's not a difficult environment to be in and to settle in. So generally, in that case, I would recommend choosing, for example, the catered hall of residence for the first year, so that at least you know that the meals are provided and they're regular. And then you also have the hall tutors that live in the halls of residence with the undergraduate students. So those are either postgraduate kind of PhD students or some staff members as well, that, you know, there'll be somebody on duty every evening if they need to see somebody. So I'm not sure if it's for a foundation or an undergraduate student, but the support is there.
Okay, thank you. There is another question. Can I get admission for MSc Adult Nursing if my first degree is accounting and I have a certification as a senior care worker level 3?
Yeah, so I think you're talking about the graduate entry nursing with the adult option. And yes, you can apply for it if you have a BSc in any subject, but you should have some relevant kind of experience in a caregiving capacity. So if you have a certification as a senior care worker, then that would definitely demonstrate that. As part of the application process, you should expect to have an interview, and then you should also expect to complete a portfolio as a kind of record of prior learning. So you would just need to kind of write about the things that you've learnt in that certification process, and any of the work experience that you've had that you think is relevant and that you can bring towards your training as a nurse. Yeah.
There's another question. I'm an ND holder. Is there a space for me to study in the UK?
Yes, most definitely. So the ND is normally a 2-year qualification, if I'm not mistaken. So what we would need to do is to receive the transcripts so that we can go through and see, is this something that could be considered to be equivalent to the A-levels that would be required for direct entry? And if yes, then you would be able to use that to apply for the 3-year bachelor's program. If you are trying to perhaps look at a course in a different area, perhaps your ND was in one topic and you want to study a different topic, then it might be that we would still recommend that you consider doing a foundation so that you get the right kind of knowledge that is needed for the bachelor's degree that you're interested in. So if you scroll up through the chats, you'll see the email address for newbie education. So if you have your transcript, you can send it through to that email address and then indicate which subject area you're looking to study. Also add the other documents if you have them available, your WIEC, and then also consider you know, what your budget is in terms of tuition as well, because like I said earlier, at the undergraduate level, generally you need to be prepared to support your costs yourself.
Yeah. Okay, please, if you have more questions, be able to answer them. Just drop them or raise your hand and speak. Thank you.
So I don't know, do you want to just talk through the process at newbie? You know, if you send through the documents, you know, what would be the next steps that you would go through? in supporting applicants.
Sure, please. For everyone in this session that attended, would be happy to do your application to Nottingham for free. So just let us know that you attended our fair, and we will process your application. We send your application to Nottingham for free. So forward your documents to us using the information that I put in the chat box, info@newbieducation.com, and you can call any of the numbers there as well. I will place it back for people that are just joining so that they can see it if they haven't seen it already. info@newbieducation.com, and the phone numbers there are always on during work hours. So please send us your documents and we'll be happy to start up with your application to Nottingham.
Great, thank you.
Okay, there is another question. Please, with HND in marketing and BSc in industrial relations, can I get a scholarship for MSc?
So it will depend on which MSc and which scholarship, and the eligibility criteria. So if I take the business school scholarship, if your BSc is a first class and you've applied early and you've chosen a course in the business school, it could be that you get a scholarship from the business school for that particular. If you're looking at, let's say, the Chevening Scholarship, which is funded by the UK government, they will fund any master's program at any UK university. I think the only exception is that for the MBA program, they don't fund the full amount. They maybe fund about 80%, I think, of the cost. And so if you've got great work experience, you have a leadership kind of position at your place of work, you see yourself as somebody that can make a difference in the future, then with the qualifications that you have, you're able to secure admission. And so once you're able to secure admission, you're able to apply for the scholarship. So there's no reason, why you shouldn't be applying for that. Yeah.
Okay, as a second question, what's the cost of the tuition for the 3 years undergraduate program and living expenses?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the tuition will depend on the course that you're coming to study. So our undergraduate programs will range between £20,000 to £25,000 per year. So as we mentioned earlier, those would be paid in 3 installments each year. So if it's a course that is, let's say, engineering, then it'll be closer to the 25,000. If it's maybe economics, you'll find that it's closer to the 20,000 because they use different facilities. For your living expenses, as an undergraduate student, you are not going to be on campus for the full 12 months of the year. So you can work with a budget of around £9,000 for the 9 months that you're on campus. The exact amount that the UKVI state that you need would be 9,207 per year. But then your actual expenses will depend on your lifestyle, the place that you live, if you cook for yourself, if you eat out, the kind of phone that you have, the number, just basically how you manage your budget and so on.
Okay, for the first question, the person said to study computer science, studying computer science. That's the person that's asked for scholarship for MSc and has a HND in marketing and BSc in industrial.
Yeah. So I'll just put the prospectus page for the computer science BSc into the chat for you, and you can you can open and read through it. So there's some information on there as well with regards to the fees. The fees for 2022, they're just being updated on the website, but it's around £25,000. It's a science course. Yeah. If you want to see the modules, what you'll learn, how you learn, all of that, if you click on the link, you'll see it. And then by next week, the fees will have reflected as well. Okay.
Thank you, Emma. Is there any other question? Please don't forget that you can send us your documents after this fair or the University of Nottingham. It's at no cost at all. We'll be happy to help you with your application to Nottingham. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just paste into the chat box as well the link to our country page information for students from Nigeria as well that I shared earlier, so you can also open that and have a browse through.
Someone is asking a question about tuition fee. How much tuition fee am I to pay at first before leaving Nigeria? I think this is about the installment one as well.
Yeah. So if you're coming for an undergraduate program, you, as a BSc program, so for the foundation it's different, but for the BSc program, you don't need to make any payment before you arrive, but the first installment is due in October. So it's more or less at the same time that you're arriving. But when you go for your visa application, you will need to show that you have the full amount of your tuition for the first year available already. So so it depends on you if you want to kind of pay the first installment even before you leave, or whether you pay it at the same time as you're arriving at the beginning of term.
Okay. No questions.
Okay, so if you click on the link that I shared for information for international students from Nigeria, if you scroll down, you'll also see my contact details that are there. I shared them earlier. So if you have any query about, am I eligible for this course or not, I'm happy to support with any questions around that. But with the application itself, checking the documents that you have, if you've got everything ready, then work together with the newbie team, guide you through that process. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so,
yes. Yeah.
So the question around when you're applying for your visa, you need to have the full amount of the tuition for your first year and your living expenses for the first year. And those must be reflected in your account or your parents' account at the time of your visa application. And there are very specific rules around the type of account that it must be in, the number of days that it has been in the account. And then if it's not an account in your name, you know, then the documents that you would need from, let's say, your parents to confirm that the funds are there to support you. So when it gets to the visa application, again, I would highly recommend that you work with the team at Newbie so that you make sure that you have everything that you need and to start early, you know. So it's good that you're asking these questions now. You know, it gives you time to prepare financially as well. But yes, you know, you need to have your entire budget for the first year available to you before you can go for the visa application.
Okay. Any more questions, please? For those joining now, we'll send you the recording of this session. For your applications to Nottingham, please send us your documents. The list of the documents are in the chat box, and the email address is info@newbieeducation.com, also in the chat box. Thank you so much.
All right, so thanks everybody for joining. Thank you for your interest in the University of Nottingham. And yeah, okay, we have a few more questions coming in now that we think we're about to close. Okay, so your final call, yeah.
Are students guided to enroll in work placements?
Yes, they are. So depending on your course, if it's an undergraduate course, you can, in some subjects, choose an industrial year, which means that you would work for a whole year as part of your course. Otherwise, we have lots of work placements that you can do in the days, or 1 day a week. So you're guided through the options that are available. Yeah.
Okay. I finished my ND in 2015, and my wife is 2004. Is there no problem with that? No, there is no problem with that. As long as your English, you have a minimum of C6. What's the tuition fee for MBA program?
Okay, so the MBA program is £28,000 starting from September 2022. And it's a 1-year program, and we start in September of each year. And for the MBA program, you need to have second upper in your first degree, and you need to have 5 years of work experience, of which at least 3 years needs to be in a management role. So if you don't meet the work experience requirement, then you can go for an MSc Business and Management, or an MSc Entrepreneurship, Innovation and Management, and the cost of those is 24,500.
Okay. Any other questions?
So yeah, so when you go for the student that's done the ND, the gap between you doing your ND and now coming to your BSc is not that great, so you may be asked the question of, why did you have such a big gap? And so you can be prepared for that and kind of say, you're now in a position to devote the time, and you have the finances available today to be able to pursue kind of your academics. So we don't know your exact personal circumstances, so that's something that you'll need to prepare for when you're getting ready for the visa application. But a gap in studies alone wouldn't be a problem on its own. Yeah.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay. Please do offer MSc in Transportation and Highway Engineering. What is the tuition fee?
Yes, we do. So there's MSc, it's called Transportation Infrastructure Engineering. So it's not exactly what you've put, but it's basically the same thing. And then the tuition fees, we've had the tuition fees shared internally, and I think it's going to be around £26,000 from September 22. This year it was £25,000. And again, the 1-year program. And I'll just share the link for the course in the chat with you, and you can go through the modules. But in terms of transportation infrastructure engineering, it's something that at Nottingham we're very really kind of well known for it. So the tuition fee for that, yes, it will be 26,500 for September 22. And then within it, you have 2 options to either focus on rail or road.
Students who deferred his admission to next session, will the school grant him another cast to upgrade his visa?
So there's 2 things that I want to address. I don't know what you mean by upgrade the visa. That makes it sound like you already have a visa, whereas if you've deferred, then normally that means that you haven't used the first cast and you haven't processed a visa for this year. So if you had admission for this year and you weren't able to come and you want to come next year instead, then we'll work with you to prepare for your visa application for next year, and that would include providing a CAS if you meet the CAS conditions. And generally, like I said, for master's program, there's a deposit that you would need to pay for that. The only times that we don't issue a CAS would be if you'd had a visa refusal based on your kind of credibility. So we'll deal with each person that is deferring individually to see the circumstances and support you through that process.
Thank you. Any more questions, please? Is there a direct school contact that I can chat in with? You can send us a message and we'll be able to answer. And Tayo already, I think she's already dropped her email address earlier.
But Emma is a direct contact of the university.
Yeah. So I've shared the link to the Nigeria country page. So if you go to that, you'll see my contact details that I put on the screen earlier. And then if you contact the newbie education team, we're in very close communication as well. So they can work with you. If there's any question, then they would also reach out to me and kind of say, we want to clarify or check on this. So we're in constant communication together.
Thank you. Any more questions, please? For those that just joined, this is University of Nottingham, and earlier I said we'll be happy to do your application at no cost. So please send us your documents and we'll send them to Nottingham for admission purposes. Okay, there is a question for the response. Please, when then Institute of Transportation and Highway, is there any funding opportunities?
So for the MSc program, Transport Infrastructure Engineering, you would be able to apply for the MSc scholarships. So if you visit the Nigeria country page, there's a link through to the different scholarships. And so if you have an offer for that course, you can apply to the internal scholarships, and then you can also look at external scholarship awards as well. So we've had a Chevening Scholar in the past that was funded for the transport engineering program, for example. So look at both internal and external funding opportunities.
Thank you.
All right, okay, so I think we'll, are we ready to close the session for today?
Yeah. Emma, thank you so much for your beautiful presentation. I can attest to that your university is a great university and Nottingham is a great city. My son did the first degree in Nottingham, and it's a place that is like a home to us.
Mm.
So thank you so much for today, and I hope that people will come to University of Nottingham. I'm very proud of Nottingham.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everybody that has joined us today, and thanks to all the work by the Newbie Education team for organising today.
Thank you very much.
All right, so if there's anything, I'll be happy to support in the follow-up after today's session.
Thank you so much.
All right, okay.
Thank you, everyone. We'll be expecting your documents sent to info@newbieeducation.com and call the numbers if you would like to speak with us. Thank you very much. Please
Great.
join in our next session for London Metropolitan University as well.
All right, thank you very much.